My name is Benjamin Glover, and this is Toga Talks. I'm here with Joe Sabanos, who's running for Saratoga Springs City School District Board of Education. Could you talk a little bit about yourself, Joe?
Certainly, yeah. I myself have been a district resident for almost my entire life. I attended school starting in kindergarten at Dorothy Nolan and then graduated from the Saratoga Springs High School in 2003, with the exception of a little time during the college years and post. Like I said, I've been a resident almost the entire time. My wife and I lived in Wilton for a little while, where I served on the Zoning Board of Appeals. And then about 5 years ago, we moved to Greenfield Center, where I currently serve on the Greenfield Town Planning Board. I have one daughter who is 4. She'll be entering the school district in kindergarten in about another year and a half. And one niece and 3 nephews also either in or will be attending the district as well at some point in time. My overall background is education-wise. I studied construction engineering technology. I have a bachelor's in that and a master's in environmental science. Professionally, I have worked on heavy highway and bridge construction projects, doing oversight for some time. And then following that, I worked for an environmental remediation company for almost 6 years. After leaving them, I'm at my current position. I work for a large electrical contractor, and I serve as the corporate safety officer for the entire company. I think I have a decent array of experience and skills that I could bring to a board, which I have brought to other boards that I've sat on in the past and currently sit on. And I think that's just one reason why I could be a decent and well-rounded board member to serve the community.
So you said you had a child who will be entering the school district, and you have nieces and nephews who are currently in the school district. I'd say overall, why do you want to run for school board?
So, my first interest, of course, was my family members, but when I reflected upon that, it's so much more. I thought about my own individual time as a student, and I was not a fantastic student. I definitely had struggles just being interested in school, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I didn't do well in all my classes, but I have a lot of really great memories of some fantastic teachers who put the extra time and effort in for me and gave me the additional encouragement that I needed to see that I could have a bright future and be successful. And it's because of those fantastic teachers and those students that struggle that I relate with that I think I could really make a meaningful impact on the board.
Awesome. So this is kind of been a contentious issue, especially this election cycle, and truly since education has been a thing. How involved do you think parents versus teachers should be in the school's curriculum?
So the curriculum itself, of course, is going to come from the administrative side, from that end of things. I recognize that it shouldn't be written by the parents. I do think that it's important to consider what's going on in industry. Being someone who works in the construction field and experience like that, I recognize that technology is advancing at a rapid pace, and I think that we should always at least keep an ear to the ground on what's happening out there in all sorts of various industries, so that our curriculum coincides with what's needed for people's professional careers. But I do believe that the parents really and truly should be given the curriculum so that they can see what it is, that they could be supportive to the curriculum. Transparency, I guess, would be just a buzzword for that, but really and truly, it's just a matter of everyone playing a role and at least being aware of what's going on.
Interesting. All right. So another issue that is contentious and an issue that is of particular interest to this election cycle for the school board is the SRO debate. Recently, the school district has voted to add additional SROs from the sheriff's office and the city police. What's your opinion on the SRO debate in general?
Um, so it's definitely one of the issues that perked my ears up to become involved and to see what was going on at school board meetings, and at least watch the videos and see how things were panning out. I was very happy to see that ultimately the board, or at least the majority of the board, voted in favor of adding the additional SROs. That's what I would have done. Um, I listened very carefully to those who were not proponents of the concept of SROs, and um, and I tried very hard to consider those viewpoints. Um, but some of those viewpoints, I had a struggle with being able to weigh out the pros and the cons of. So yeah, I would definitely say I'm someone who thinks that it was a good decision on the board's point to add those SROs for sure.
Absolutely. Building off of that a little bit, some of the people who were talking in the SRO debate against SROs are building off of this concept that the some of the students and maybe some of the staff have traumatic experiences or could be scared or and otherwise cause anxiety to these kids by the sight or presence of a police officer in their educational environment. What would your opinion be about that, and how would you remedy that if you when you are supportive of SROs in schools?
So it's a good question, and I've asked a few children what their experience has been like with the SROs at their schools. Um, and of course, that's just a very small sample set, but every individual child that I'd spoke to that I knew, family, friends, or whatever, had fantastic things to say about their relationships with the SROs. Um, I have heard, like I said, the folks who think that there could be some distractions of the SROs, and then I've also sat down personally with one person who I know is an SRO in another district, who gave me a little bit of insight of what it is that they do on a daily basis. And how it was explained to me is that an SRO can play a fantastic role in the school community, working alongside the administrative staff, working alongside the mental health counselors, and be an advocate for the students and another avenue for the students to have an individual that they could feel safe coming to. Um, that SRO specifically told me that he's on a first name basis with a whole lot of the students, and that he spends time participating at the after school activities, clubs, and events. And that trust and relationship that he and what I've been told other SROs have worked so hard to build um, has developed into something that allows for not just physical safety at the school, but emotional safety and support. And there's so much more than an SRO can and does do above and beyond. I'd say even behind the scenes that people don't realize, helping
Hmm.
people and students who may have issues with home life or things of that nature. So there's a lot more to that subject and that discussion that I think we should all truly consider.
Absolutely. So, building off of that a little bit about the support that SROs can provide, your campaign announcement has student/staff support as a priority on your Facebook page. Could you expand on that a little bit?
Certainly, yeah. So student staff support. So it's we'll start with the student aspect of it. Okay, I recognize that every individual student has different needs. For every kid that goes to school, regardless of age, whatever, is their plan to success, their plan to shine is going to look different from any of their other students. Mine was specifically,
Yeah.
and so that's one thing that I recognize. If a student needs guidance, and I mean that in so many different ways, whether it be on a mental health level or just even just a good role model. There's so many wonderful resources available. There are fantastic teachers that are willing to give that extra to see that a student can succeed. And sometimes those resources may also be, maybe physical in nature, whether that be adding things to programs so that students can have, better technologies or whatever equipment necessary so that they could study unique fields that may not be currently in the programs.
Interesting. Could you give an example of that?
Certainly, yeah. I come from an environmental background,
Mm-hmm.
specifically remediation. That is a huge field right now,
Yeah.
and I don't recall, or at least at my time there, and I don't know if there currently is any programs that utilize some remediation technologies and equipment, things like testing equipment for things like soil or soil vapor or contamination levels and stuff like that. And without going into some of the deep dives of it and boring anybody, that could be a great sector for kids to explore.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's interesting. I haven't heard that yet, and I think that's a very interesting campaign piece because as somebody who's in the high school right now, I do feel like as many options as we have, I feel like we're missing huge sectors, and that's very interesting. So actually, on that topic about breadth of education, let's say, what's your opinion on the recent termination of the Latin program in the high school?
So, to be perfectly honest, languages were certainly a weak point of mine.
Mm.
But that doesn't mean that I don't have an interest in it. I truly wish that now I could pick up something if I had some free time.
Yeah.
I think it's really unfortunate. I think in a school district as large as ours, I've always found it kind of surprising that we only were limited to French, Spanish, and Latin. I was surprised that, being, in comparison to other large districts, they offer things like German or Portuguese or, there's so many other languages out there, Mandarin, Cantonese, etc., all those. It's amazing to me that we're going in a reverse direction with that. I think that languages can be incredibly important in an infinite amount of career paths and social construct as well. So the loss of that program, to me, represents a much bigger picture. And I think that whatever we need to do to really look at that more carefully and see if there's a way to try to harness some way to save it, I think we should really consider that.
Absolutely. Um, so this is a little bit of a more dark note, but over the last couple of years, a pattern of violence and fights has been uncovered at the districts via fight videos in the high and middle school, the Maple Ave and Saratoga Springs High School. What would your plan be to combat this issue using a new program slash building off of existing programs such as DEI, No Place for Hate, et cetera, et cetera?
I mean, it is dark, and it saddens me to hear this. That was not the experience that I had as a student. Every once in a while, there would be a small scuffle or whatever, and I don't support it at all. I don't think physical violence is ever a good response or solution to anything. Period. Let me be very clear about that. I think that we need to look and see what it is that is driving any student or any individual towards a path of violence and to choose violence as an outlet. And that's very complicated. I am not a mental health professional. I have no psychology background, so it's hard for me to come up with a concrete solution. But what I would say is this: is that we need to explore what it is that is making students feel this anger and this anxiety and whatever else emotions are leading towards them to use violence as a physical outlet, and see if we can combat that. And I think the start with that is some of the programs are good, but there's other avenues that we need to explore in addition to that. And what I mean by that is let's start with good communication. Let's listen to what the students have to say opposed to telling the students what to do. Let's develop good, honest relationships with the students, the faculty, the staff, so that we can talk on a real and honest level.
Yeah. Um, so building off of that idea of mental health and its implications with violent activities at the high and middle school, what do you believe that the role of mental health counselors uh, should be in a student's educational experience at the district?
So, mental health has definitely changed significantly, like I said, since my experience of being there. I think that in this day and age, we all at least have been affected by people or family or friends who have had some type of struggle with mental health, um, myself included. And I I think that we're working towards reducing the negative stigma associated with it. I think that maybe, years ago, maybe a student might have been embarrassed to go seek help, and maybe some students still are. I don't know. Um, but I think that the mental health piece should be a combination of allowing a resource to be present, but also be in some ways a little bit maybe on the offensive end. And what I mean by that, as opposed to just sitting and waiting for a student to enter an office, maybe we have some programs where all of the students once a year or twice a year participate in a small event that recognizes the signs of someone who needs mental health. So maybe a friend can help another friend. That would be where I would start. Is like I said, an offensive approach combined with a resource approach.
Okay. Um, so building off of that itself, one of the one of many causes of mental health issues at the high school and to an extent at the middle school is this an underlying issue that a recent Times Union article has reported a serious racism and xenophobia issue in the school district itself. Currently, the high school has the No Place for Hate program, and the high school also has DEI, and the middle school has a similar program. Besides, though, the existing programs to combat those issues, what do you believe would be the most constructive way to alleviate this issue, this problem, this?
Well, let me first say that hate, that racism, that just overall disrespect towards one another is something that we should all strive every single day to eradicate. Period. I don't have the simple answer to wave a magic wand and make it all go away. I wish I did. If I did, I would be the first to do it, regardless of whatever it would cost me.
Yeah.
Um, and the programs that are in place, I think, are really working towards something good. But I think that we need to look a little bit deeper. Those people who have hate and are portraying it on others, we need to see where that's coming from. And I know it sounds silly to, I don't know, sit down and just speak with people like that have hate in their hearts, but we need to figure out why. Because I know that we can change people's hearts and we could change people's minds if we all have more understanding. And I think that might be some of the root of the hate. And I think that could be grounds for making the change.
All right. Moving away from that very serious issue, I'd like to take a brief second to remind our viewers that on May 3rd, on Wednesday at 7 p.m. at the Saratoga Springs High School in the Meade Auditorium, there will be a Meet the Candidates event hosted by the League of Women Voters. You can show up all the Board of Education candidates who are currently running and have submitted, filled out petitions, will be there to share their platforms. And again, it'll be hosted by the League of Women Voters of Saratoga County. So stop by May 3rd, Wednesday, 7 p.m. at the Saratoga Springs High School. Back to the interview. I'd like to talk about something that in my research, my analysis, I've found to be a very important part of being a Board of Education member. and it's the effect that somebody's personal management style has on their work. So would you say that as a Board of Education member, you would be more hands-on or hands-off with the district?
It's a good question, and I like that.
Thanks.
There is a very specific role that I think a board member should play. And there are guidelines set up for what that board member can and can do. I believe a good hands-on approach is important. I believe someone who sits on the board should go into every situation open-minded, without any preconceived notions, without any personal bias, and should be able to really listen, and to listen to all sides, and use that information to collaborate as well as possible with their other board members. And sometimes there may be disagreements. But I think at the end of the day, a board can be really successful when you recognize the individual skills that each member can bring and put those together in a synergistic way.
Interesting. So a focus on cooperation.
I would definitely start with cooperation. I would even overly simplify it and start with kindness, respect, and listening.
So moving again into your future possible tenure, what would be your number one priority if elected? The first thing and or most important thing that you'd like to accomplish while in office?
I don't believe I have a specific agenda. I think that for me, I want to keep our safety moving forward. I want to keep our curriculum moving towards transparency. The same with our budget as well, so that everyone has a good understanding. And I'd like to work on efficiency. I think that collaboration is good, but I also think that we have a responsibility to everyone in the district to listen first, work together to the best of our abilities, and then produce. And I do think that we could certainly work on our efficiency with that.
You think that that's an area of improvement for the current Board of Education?
I have nothing bad to say about the current board, past boards, and especially the boards that were in place when I was a student. I think that there is always room for improvement, and there always will be room for improvement.
I was more referring to a possible future board that you would be elected to, as in the upcoming board. Would you believe that that would be an area of improvement that you would want to work on in that board itself?
Certainly. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So moving away from your possible future tenure and more into the campaign side of things, what's your opinion on Sharon Dominguez's candidacy?
So Sharon and I have had a lot of opportunities to really sit down and kind of discuss some of these issues. And from our first meeting on, we both realized that we were really and truly passionate about the same goals, about providing a really wonderful experience for the students, but about providing a safe, good educational atmosphere for everyone, staff, students, etc. And Sharon is not only passionate, but she has showed me some amazing things about how learning and listening to individual members of the community can really help to kind of shape where we believe the direction we should go.
Absolutely. Do you think that your opinion on certain issues or your priorities or your idea of the ideal school district has been shaped by the parents that you've talked to from the time that you decided to run and now?
I certainly have expanded upon my my list of things that are important. I have spoken with some parents and their needs and their children's needs, and I've spoken with some teachers and administrative staff and their needs. And they have brought to my attention some things that I just simply wasn't aware of because I am not them and they are not me. I can't be everything. I'm not everybody's parent, you know. I'm not everybody's coworker. So for me, it's expanded my horizons of the things that people in the community think that we could do better on. And I think that's been really helpful for me, talking to people one on one, just knocking on somebody's door who's a complete random stranger that I may not share anything in common with, but having a nice conversation, regardless of whether we agree or disagree on a topic, it's refreshing to hear that people show an interest in moving us in a forward direction.
Absolutely. Um, so talking about Sharon's candidacy on the last Toga Talks podcast, where I interviewed Sharon, she endorsed your candidacy. And my obvious follow-up question to what you said in the last interview would be, would you be ready to endorse her candidacy?
I full-heartedly endorse Sharon's candidacy. We are working together at this point. I don't know if we really have, or at least have identified anything specific where we really, really strongly differ, to be honest with you.
I haven't noticed anything personally.
I mean, we've had a couple heart-to-hearts, and I've even said to her, is there anything that you think that, that I've said to you, that's a big, a big differ? And she said no, and I said, well, the same. So, yes, no, I fully endorse your candidacy for sure. And we're going to continue to work forward on this campaign together because we both have similar visions.
Very interesting. So you're walking with Sharon at this point? At some point?
Yeah, I mean, we've done a few events together. We're on different schedules, so and we're a little bit of a divide and conquer for sure.
Yeah.
Just because it's just easier for that. But yes, no,
But you're working as a team.
Certainly, absolutely, awesome. Yeah.
All right, hardest question I have. You ready?
Yeah. It's be hard.
Would you ever, or have you ever, solicited any donations or other forms of support from any local party committee?
At this time, and I will be completely transparent on this, have only received one donation from one individual person, and I've yet to cash the check. Because this whole money aspect of things is so foreign to me.
One donation.
And that's it. I truly, the whole money thing to me is very foreign because I've never asked anybody for money before, and I don't think I'm going to start, to be honest with you.
Well, the question is, I absolutely think that that's an important part of it, and I think that the money aspect of it is an incentive for a lot of people. But the part that I'm more interested in is what do you believe that the role of partisanship should be in a Board of Education election, especially in this Board of Education election, considering the issues, considering the candidates?
Really good. So I believe that partisanship, whether you say, R or D or whatever, should play no role in this whatsoever. But let's be realistic. Now, I am a person who is not registered to either one of the major political parties. I certainly would love support from any large group of people. And when I mean support, I mean just getting the information out, verbal, whatever, not financially whatsoever. I think that when you seek larger organizations or especially political organizations, it's hard to focus on the genuine issues. And I think because of that, and I don't know where the other people running stand on this and what their contributions have been, but for me, this is about having the absolute best district possible. And however we need to do that, it should really come from the community members and not from a larger organization which potentially could have some underlying agenda.
All right, so wrapping up here a little bit, I'd just like to remind viewers or listeners that the current candidates in the Board of Election race or the Board of Education race are Joe Sabanos, Sharon Dominguez, Tony Crackler, Anjanette Emeka, and Beth Braxton. And Tony Crackler, as a representative of the Crackler Emeka Braxton ticket, has solicited a donation of $1,000 in United States currency for mailers approximately 2 weeks ago. Thank you to a member of the Democratic Committee who has assisted me in identifying the more exact number. So that is $1,000. To my knowledge, that is $1,000. So before we go, would you like to say anything to potential voters? Anything that you believe would be important for people to know?
Yeah, I guess my overall closing would be pretty simple. Is that I, like I said, cannot wear every hat. I have not walked a mile in everybody's shoes. I don't know if I could truly empathize with every human being that we have in our district, but I'd like to think that as somebody who has spent almost my entire life here, has been through the system, our wonderful school system, and have been able to build a wonderful life here, I think I could be a good representative for our district. I think I could be a really good listener for anyone who comes before the board. And I really believe that with my experience on other boards, with my experience professionally, and even with my experience, a little bit of teaching that I had done post grad school, I think I could look at anything that comes to the board in the most objective and fair way and be a good advocate for everybody involved in the district.
Awesome. Thanks so much. So that's the end of our interview. Thank you for joining us, Joe. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your thoughts and answering my questions and, accommodating for my seating issues.
Benjamin, I really appreciate the opportunity, honestly. I mean, I think that this is a great platform, and this to me was important to make time for, because I really do think that the community does need to hear what the candidates have to say, and I think that this is a great way to do so.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. All right, awesome. So that's all we have today. Make sure to subscribe and follow us on Facebook, SoundCloud. We're on YouTube. And you can email us at togatalks@gmail.com if you have any questions or concerns or comments or anything. And I guess I'll see you guys next time. Bye.